Hey, how's it going, everybody? My name is Sockbot, and welcome to The Concept Of, a show where I break down major concepts in all sorts of games to explain how they work and what makes them fun. Yeah, I actually gave a name to that. But this week, like every other 3D World fan, I have been spending my time slowly going insane waiting for Bowser's Fury to be released. I was shocked back when the original game released how much I loved that game, and even though the new bonus content is a huge departure from the flagpole capped levels of 3D World, I am 100% on board for this game. But the more that I think about the vast changes that Nintendo has made just for this bonus pre-release content, the more I realize how significant these changes actually are. So today's video is going to be all about the most impressive parts of the game, namely Daddy Bowser's big, gorgeous, furry Today's video is going to be all about Bowser's Fury and the concept of an open world. How the dev team created all the challenges, how they filled out the new open world format, and finally, how they made it feel more alive than Frankenstein's monster at one of Tesla's infamous ragers. So if that sounds like something that you're interested in, or if you want to see more slow-mo shots of Fury Bowser, totally get it. Feel free to stick around, like the video if you liked it, and subscribe if you want to see more, but no pressure as always. Now, I did an entire video on why Bowser's Fury is so different, so I'll put a card here for that video, but today I want to focus more on how they turned the most linear 3D Mario game ever into a dynamic open-world 3D platformer. The open world is what everybody's been talking about here on YouTube, but open worlds in general are not as complicated or as open as they appear. Let me explain. So open world games are designed to give the illusion of choice and player agency. They do this by making multiple bits of content available to the player at any one time. For example, take Super Mario 64 for the Nintendo 64. At nearly any point in this game, you not only have the choice of a number of worlds to explore, but also the choice to collect nearly any star within those worlds. Given the castle itself is also an option given the doors and everything else to unlock, areas to explore, and secret stars to collect, it's pretty vast the amount of choices that you have. But the goal, in general, is always the same. Collect enough stars to fight Bowser, collect most stars, and repeat until you beat Bowser 3 times. Likewise, the order that you access the worlds is not completely up to the player. The game opens up a handful of worlds to play early on, but it requires the player to gather a certain amount of stars from those levels before moving on, assuming that no glitches are used. Furthermore, only 1 or 2 designated paths lead to each star in each world, so the more that you look at it, the less open it seems. Have I ruined the game for you? Is it gonna make it worse if I say that you can do this for pretty much any other open world game? Well, hold on, I will fix that in a second, but I'm only talking about this to show how the devs could take the same assets from 3D World, an almost entirely linear game, and turn it into something that gives the illusion of an open world. And yes, I'm going to be using that word illusion a lot. All video games are an illusion, Mary. You're not actually an Italian plumber, and I'm sorry if that ruined the fantasy for you. But anyways, the point that I'm trying to make is an open world is, at its core, a plethora of simple, linear challenges, just like any non-open world game. What makes Bowser's Fury and other open world games so different from those is the branching and merging paths that connect each of these linear challenges together. I will go here with a more modern example for anybody that is significantly younger out there, Castlevania Symphony of the Night for the PlayStation. What? It's like a whole year more modern than Mario 64. That's like the difference between baby and toddler Sockbot. So I'm pretty sure I had like at least 2 more motor skills by that point to appreciate this game. Anyways, like any other Metroidvania game, or I guess just Vania in this case, Symphony of the Night lays out a huge map with a handful of power-ups and bosses scattered across differently themed areas. The power-ups must be acquired in a specific order, with a few exceptions, and most of the bosses work that way too. The order of goals is somewhat linear, but the game itself never once feels linear. There are often multiple routes of rooms to each separate power-up, and each room connects to others at multiple different points. The result is that each journey feels significantly different. Optional but very important power-ups and items just lie right off the beaten path, encouraging the player to explore. What's more is that it's quickly apparent to anybody playing this game that you're going to need to explore just about every room to reach the end of the game, so journeying into future zones ahead of time, only to be blocked by an obstacle whose item you've yet to acquire, is rarely a waste of time. I know it sounds like I've just proved and disproved the same theory here, but to me, they're just two sides of the same coin. Symphony of the Night is a great example because we can actually look back at previous games in the series that were almost entirely linear, like Super Castlevania IV. Sure, Super Castlevania IV had a couple paths for different levels, and in Castlevania Symphony of the Night they added a leveling system, but the main two differences between Symphony of the Night and Castlevania IV on the Super Nintendo were placing the different levels on the same map and locking each one behind subsequent keys. Toss in a few extra rooms with the bonus power-ups, and you have the granddaddy of an open-world 2D game. And what a daddy he is. So the transition from linear to open world isn't as complicated as it might seem. There are still certain paths that Nintendo obviously wants you to use to get to each star, or rather cat shines in this case, which I did talk about in excess in the aforementioned video, but those paths are interconnected, and I'm sure littered with more than enough extraneous collectibles. So finally, I want to discuss Bowser's version of flipping the castle upside down in what I've been calling Bowser time. Part of what makes open world games feel open and familiar, the interconnected paths, can also lead to a little bit of fatigue when the player has visited the same area more than a couple times. Giving the player more ways to traverse these areas definitely helps, but why not make some minor changes across the entire world to freshen things up a bit? Flip the world on its head, if not literally, then figuratively? Well, folks, here comes Bowser time. Okay, I'm gonna stop doing that, but at some point in the game, Bowser will appear and begin punishing the player for basically existing. I mean, not really, but he will alter the world pretty significantly whenever he attacks. New platforms appear, creating new paths and access to new areas and connecting other areas that weren't connected before. Enemies change or power up in this state, and the sky turns all dark and scary to let you know just who's in charge. It's Bowser, if that wasn't clear. I do really love mechanics like this. Day-night cycles and that sort of mechanic is not just amazing because it adds another layer of just aliveness to the digital world, but because lighting effects are just so pretty in the dark. But if all these changes are relatively simple, are they enough to make Bowser's Fury feel like a totally different game? I think that's sort of up to you to decide, but I will give my 2 cents on the subject. The jumping seems identical to 3D World, and I'm pretty sure that Plessy is going to control basically the same, but those seem to be the only similarities that I could come up with that aren't just graphical. With the new format and a handful of new animations and abilities for Mario, I think that Bowser's Fury is shaping up to be one of the biggest and baddest bonus content packs that we have ever seen from Nintendo, and I'm including DLC here. Is it what I wanted? Absolutely not. It's almost a completely different game despite how minor the changes are from a technical perspective. And we can totally have that discussion in the comments, but that's really not the point that I'm trying to make here. It may not be what I wanted from the whole 4-player amazing adventure that we started with, and mind you, I am still holding out for Daisy as a playable character in this bonus content pack, but I gotta commend Nintendo for surprising just about everyone with such a unique, lengthy addition to an already amazing game. Let me know what you all think in the comments down below, like the video if you liked it, and subscribe if you want to see more. But for now, my name is Sockbot, thank you so much for watching The Concept Of, and I will talk to you all in the next video.